So when you put something into y equals form, what did we call that before? That's what form? Starts with function form, okay? Function form. When I put it in function form, I'm putting it in slope-intercept form, okay? Slope-intercept. You know what a slope is. What's a slope?
Number, like,
What over what?
X
It's
or
the
Y.
It's
The change in y over the change in x,
The
okay?
rise over run.
So my rise over my run. So my slope is my rise over my run, my change in my y over change in my x. The intercept means where it crosses the y-axis, okay? So if I have it in this form, y equals mx plus b, this is called slope-intercept form. That's what you're putting it in all the time, right? You're putting it in y equals 2x plus 12 or whatever. That is slope-intercept form. Because that 2 that's in front of my x tells me my slope, and this b, which is 12, tells me what my y-intercept is, which means I can graph everything off of it. Okay? If I have y equals 2x plus 3, what is your slope? 2. The 2. So when I look at that equation, my slope is 2. You guys did that last night in your homework. You looked at equations and you told me what the slope was, yeah? Okay. So my slope is 2. Okay? Bless you. Slope equals 2. What is my y-intercept here?
3.
Yeah, y equals 3 in this case. Here's y. Here's why y equals 3. If I plug 0 into x, right, what does y equal?
2.
2.
Time out.
3.
How do we get
5.
Whoa.
3.
Think.
Wait.
If I plug 0 in here, that makes this 0. 0 plus 3 is
3.
So y equals 3. Okay. So instead of plugging it in and doing the math, instead of plugging 0 in and showing me all that work, you can literally just look at whatever this number is, and that's what y equals.
Bruh.
How do we get the slope?
The slope, because the slope right here, the form is m times x plus b. Your m is your slope. So whatever is in front of that x is your slope, always. Okay? Whatever is in front of your x is always your slope. Whatever is by itself out here being added or subtracted is your y. If there's nothing there, what's your y?
1.
0.
0.
0. If there's nothing there, it's 0. Okay? If there's something there, then it's whatever that number is, whether it's a fraction or a decimal or anything. Okay? Off of that, we can graph, which we'll get to when we get to that red part, and we'll talk about it. It makes it very simple. But over here, I want you to help me identify the slopes and the y-intercepts again. What is the slope of this equation? Y equals x minus 4. No. What did you say? 1. What's always in front of here? 1. If it was 0, there wouldn't be an x. It would just say y equals.
Okay.
Okay? So there's no slope when there's no x. Okay? What is my y-intercept?
1.
4.
Not 4. Negative 4. Whatever that sign is in front of it goes with it. Tells me if it's positive or negative. Okay? Negative 4. So my y-intercept equals negative 4. Okay, here. Can I tell by looking at that equation what my slope and y-intercept are?
No.
What do I need to do first?
You need to put it in function form.
Put it in function form or in slope-intercept form. They're interchangeable right now, okay? Slope-intercept is function form. So let's do that. What do I do first?
Subtract 3x.
Yeah, subtract 3x. Good. So 5y equals negative 3x plus 10. Now what?
So your slope would be.
Nope, I'm not done yet. There's still something with that y. What do I do to get?
You divide everything by 5.
Divide. Okay, when I divide by 5, I get this. Negative 3/5 x. And what's 10 divided by 5?
2.
Plus 2. So what is my slope?
3 over
Where's my
5. Negative 3 over 5.
Negative 3 over 5. Good. Negative 3 over 5. Mm-hmm. And what is my y-intercept?
2.
Okay. So here's the thing. Emma, you said you're confused?
Yes.
Okay. Listen. When you have it and when it's not in y equals form, I first have to change it to that, which you guys have been doing, yes? Okay, so I changed it to y equals form by subtracting 3x from both sides, so I get 5y equals negative 3x plus 10. Yes? Okay? To get y by itself, I have to divide by 5. That means I divide this section by 5 and this section by 5. Okay? 3 cannot be divided by 5, right? So I just get negative 3/5 x. Okay, negative 3/5 x. When you divide 10 by 5, you get 2. Now this is in function form or in slope-intercept form. So now I can look and I can say my slope is negative 3/5. My y-intercept is 2. Okay? Okay. When I am graphing, here is how you graph slope-intercept form. Okay? Yesterday when you had this, you plugged in a 0 to x and you graphed that point. You plugged a 0 into y and you graphed that point, right? Okay. When the equation is in y equals, in slope-intercept form, I'm going to find my y-intercept. What is my y-intercept? 4. Y-intercept on this equals 4. I'm going to graph 0, 4, my y-intercept. 0, 4. Okay? So graph this. So step 1, graph y-intercept. Step 2, find slope. What's your slope?
Negative 2.
Okay, negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 tells me my rise. 3 tells me my run. So if I'm rising negative 2, what does that mean I'm doing?
You go to
Going down. You're going down because it's negative. So I'm rising negatively, which means I'm falling. Okay, so yes, you go from the 4. So I'm going to go down 2. And how many am I running?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Look, I've graphed my points.
Wait, what if it doesn't have that?
Time out. What, Emma?
Why do we have to go
So
from?
when you graph your slope, you start at the
Y-intercept. So if my y-intercept's 0, I'm starting at 0. And then I'm doing whatever the slope says. So if my slope is 4 over 3, I'm going up 4 and over 3. Okay? What? What do you mean? No, but it could be a whole number. If my slope is 3, what does that mean? What's technically under my 3? 1. 1. Because if I have a whole number, I can always put it over top of 1, right? So let's say you have this equation. Y equals 2x plus 3. Okay? What do I graph first? Y-intercept. What's my y-intercept?
3.
Okay. So my y-intercept is 3, so I'm graphing 0, 3, right? So I go here. What's my slope?
2.
2. What's technically always under that 2? So my rise is what?
2.
Up 2 and over 1. And I can keep doing that to graph every point in this. Okay? You also can work it reverse. So like if your point was super high and you run out of room, instead of going up 2 over 1, I can go down 2 and over 1 this way. Because my line is going like this, yes? Okay? Does that make it easier to graph? Yes. Okay? Now on your quiz, it's going to give you one where it says graph using a chart. And you have to actually plug numbers in, inputs and outputs, inputs and outputs. Then it's going to give you one that says graph using the y and x intercepts. So you have to plug 0 in for x, plug 0 in for y, and graph. Then it's going to say graph when it's in slope-intercept form. And that's going to be super easy. Okay? You have to know how to do all 3 because later on when we get harder equations, sometimes you can't do this on them. Okay? Or sometimes I can't, when I graph stuff that aren't just lines later on in life, I can't use y slope-intercept form because it's not a line. Okay? So I have to know how to plug in and get points out. Okay, we have a word problem, then we have some special slopes, and then we're done. Word problem. A temperature at Earth's surface averages about 20 degrees Celsius. In the crust below the surface, the temperature rises about 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer of depth. Write an equation that approximates the temperature below Earth's surface as a function of depth. So if it's a function of depth, what does that mean it's equaling? Nope, if it's a function of depth, how do you find the depth? Let's talk about that. It says temperature at Earth's surface averages 20 degrees Celsius. In the crust below the surface, the temperature rises 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer of depth, right? So what creates, it rises 25 degrees per kilometer of depth. So as I go down further, it rises more, right? Okay? So as I go down further, it rises more. So we've got to come up with a equation for that. So I'm trying to find the temperature where? Where's the temperature that I'm trying to find? Above the ground or below the ground? Below. Okay? So that's what my y equals. My y is the temperature below ground. Temp below ground, okay? I'm going to write it in words and write it in letters. Y equals. This equals. Okay? What makes up the temperature below my ground? What? Okay, 25x, but what else makes up my temperature below my ground? Where does it start at? At 20, yeah. So 20, right? My temperature of my surface area, right? Temp of surface is 20, right? So I'm adding that to my 25x that you told me because we don't know how deep we're going, right? So my 25 is my temperature, my 25 is my change, right? My rate of change. Times, right, the depth. So my depth was x, and this is 25. Do I have it in slope-intercept form now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Because my change happens at 25 Celsius per how low I go. Okay? Per kilometer. So now I have it in this form. It says underground bacteria exist that can survive temperatures of up to 110 degrees Celsius. Find the maximum depth. So what am I trying to find? Which is my what in this equation?
Y. Sorry, X.
It's my x. My depth is my x. So I'm trying to find my maximum depth at which these bacteria can survive. Okay. Now, they gave us a number. What number did they give us? 110. So what do you think 110 gets plugged into?
Y.
Why? Because it's my temperature below the ground. Okay? And what I'm trying to find is my x. So if I plug it in, I can solve this equation. How do you solve from there?
You subtract.
Yeah, subtract 20. What's 110 minus 20?
90.
And 90 equals 25x. What do I do now?
Divide by 25.
Divide by 25. Beautiful. And what is x going to equal? What's 90 divided by
3.6.
3.6 what?
Kilometers.
Kilometers, because that's my depth. Okay? That one's a little tricky. So on your homework, if you have word problems that are similar, look back at this, okay, and try to set up your boxes like that. You're going to have 4 boxes. You're going to have what you're getting at. You're going to have what your rate of change is times your unknown thing plus where your starting point is, okay? That's how it's always going to be set up if it's in slope-intercept form, okay? Now, last 2 things. These are very easy if you think through this. When we need to talk about slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines because they're special. Okay? What do you know about parallel lines? Okay, they never touch, right? They're just running like this together, yes? Okay, so I can draw a pair of parallel lines however I want. I'm going to draw them like this. Okay? Are those lines ever going to touch? No. Parallel lines. This is a symbol for parallel as well. You'll need to know that later on, so I just threw it in there as like a little tease. Okay? Parallel lines always, always, always have the same slope. Okay? So if I have an equation that says y equals negative 3/4 x plus 12, and they say there is a line parallel to that, what is its slope? What would you tell me? Negative 3/4. If the lines are parallel, their slopes are always the same. Okay? Perpendicular. What does perpendicular mean? They cross at one point to create what type of angle?
No.
What type of angle? What?
90.
90 degrees.
An acute angle.
No, 90 degrees. A right angle. So they're going to cross like this, right? Okay? So here's a pair of perpendicular lines. Okay? Perpendicular. This is a symbol for perpendicular. See, it makes a right angle. That's why I know they're perpendicular. Okay? Perpendicular always have opposite reciprocals as their slopes. Meaning this. If my equation says y equals 2x plus 6, okay? The line that is perpendicular to that is going to have the opposite reciprocal of this slope. What is the opposite reciprocal of that slope? No, not negative 2. Negative
6.
1/2. Reciprocal means fraction. I'm flipping. So this is 2/1. So my slope is always going to be the opposite reciprocal. So negative 1/2. So not only does it change its sign, it changes into a fraction. If it's in a fraction, it's going to change to a whole number. Unless it's a fraction like 4/3. What's my opposite reciprocal? Negative 3/4. Okay? So, you're going to get problems like this on your homework tonight. So, we're going to do one. It says, find the slope of a line that has the given relationship to 4x plus 3y equals 18. They want the slope of something that's parallel to it and something that's perpendicular to it. What do I have to do first? What's wrong with that equation?
You gotta take away 3.
No, you have to put it
Function
in
form.
function form.
Put it in function form. Thank you. I need to put it in slope intercept form, in function form. How do I start that, Kate?
You subtract 4x.
Yep, subtract 4x. So when I subtract 4x from both sides, right, I get 3y equals negative 4x plus 18. Because remember, I want to write it in slope intercept form. Now what do I do?
Divide it all by 3.
Divide it all by 3, and I get an equation that says y equals negative 4/3 x, and what's 18 divided by 3?
6.
Plus 6. Okay. If I'm using a line that is parallel to that, what is the slope of that parallel line?
4/3.
Negative 4/3. It stays the same. Okay. If I am finding a slope of a line that is perpendicular to it,
Positive 3/4.
positive 3/4. Because I change the sign and I flip it. Okay? If it's perpendicular, you change the sign and you flip it. If it's parallel, it's exactly the stinking same. Keep it the same. Okay? Because for it to be parallel, they have to have the same slopes because they're never going to touch at that time. Because they don't change course, right? They stay on the same course. Okay? And when it's perpendicular, if it's the opposite reciprocal, it creates a 90-degree angle because it's going to cut through that other line. Okay? So, graphing should be much easier tonight for you. Because you should be able to look and you first find the what?
Slope.
The y-intercept, and you graph it. Then you find the slope, and you count either down 3 or up 3, whatever it is. If it's negative, you're counting down. If it's positive, you're counting up. And then you count over. Okay? Rise over run. Okay, let me give you homework.